Killer Kowalski, founder and owner of Killer Kowalski's Professional Wrestling School, was born on October 13, 1926 in Windsor, Ontario, the son of Polish immigrants. For a time, he worked in an auto plant with his father before getting the call to get into pro wrestling. Kowalski began wrestling professionally in 1947 and continued to wrestle for 26 years in over 6,000 matches. In August of 1950, he won the NWA Texas title. He held several titles in the 1950s in the Pacific Coast League, NWA, and AWA. In January of 1953, Kowalski was involved in the first professional wrestling match ever aired in Canada. Kowalski was matched up against Yukon Eric at the Montreal Forum. And in 1954, also at the Montreal Forum, Kowalski knee-dropped Yukon Eric, severing a piece of his ear in the process and creating wrestling history. As the story goes, Kowalski was now a heel. Indeed, many of the high points of Kowalski's career involve spontaneous and often gory altercations, which combined to make him the most hated man in his era of professional wrestling. He broke the leg of Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, who was the first man to hold both the NWA and WWF championships. He power-slammed Dr. Bill Miller from the ring right to the arena floor. Kowalski's intimidating stance outside the ring and his brutality inside the ring were hallmarks of his legendary career, which continue to fascinate wrestling fans to this day. In 1963, he held one half of the WWF U.S. Tag Team titles. In the 1960s, he wrestled in Australia and held several titles there. In the 1970s, he teamed up with John Studd as the Executioners and won the WWF Tag Team title. In 1976, they lost the tag team belts to Chief Jay Strongbow and Billy White Wolf in a legendary match. Kowalski faced all of the top names over the years, including Whipper Billy Watson and Gorgeous George. Kowalski made headlines in the mainstream press when he applied his dreaded claw hold to talk show host Don Lane. Lane kept goading Kowalski about wrestling being fake, so Kowalski took matters right into his own hands, literally. The question of wrestling's legitimacy never came up after that. Kowalski is regarded as one of the greatest all-around wrestlers in the history of the sport. His achievements in the squared circle have been compared to those of baseball's Ted Williams and hockey's Bobby Orr. In 1977, Kowalski retired and opened Killer Kowalski's Professional Wrestling School. Some of Kowalski's most famous protégés include Triple H, Chyna, Perry Saturn, and A-Train, as well as many of 2CW's very own wrestling stars such as ZS3, 2CW champion Slick Wagner Brown, Hurricane John Walters, Nicky Rocks, and Die Hard Eddie Edwards. 2CW honors the legendary Walter Killer Kowalski, and we are certain his legacy will live on for many generations to come.